Hey everybody, Daniel Ramsey here with MyOutDesk. Today we've got a very special guest. I'm really excited. I saw this guy speak in Breckenridge, Colorado. He blew my mind. Nick Santianaso is here. He's an author, speaker, a bodybuilder, now a snowboarder, thanks to some amazing people. Here's the why we brought this in. As an entrepreneur, I've grown a ton of businesses and helped our clients grow a lot of businesses. And there's one thing that is always present. People who win have a winning attitude. They have a winning attitude, a great mindset. And honestly, I feel silly because Nick, I don't know if you don't know this because we didn't prepare for this but I walked in, I saw you speak, and literally inside I thought I should be so much more grateful than I actually am after hearing you speak. And the reason you're here is because your story is just so inspirational. And man, thanks for joining us today.
Dude, I'm pumped up. I'm grateful for the opportunity, brother. Anytime I have the opportunity to get up here and share some wisdom, shift some perspectives, I'm about it.
Yeah. So let's, I mean, if you're listening, let's dive in. Like, Nick, tell us a little bit about your story. Like, cause people want to know, like, I mean, I saw pictures with The Rock. You're on stage in front of thousands of people all the time. Yeah. Like, let's hear your story.
Yes, for sure. So I'm 6'5". No, I'm just kidding. I'm 22 years old in 1996 when my mom was pregnant with me. You know, they went in for the first ultrasound. It was great. Second ultrasound, great. And then my mom went in for a late ultrasound. And so basically when they brought my parents in, you know, they brought me up on the screen, the baby, and they said, you know, something's extremely wrong. It doesn't look like his limbs are being developed. He might have a cleft palate. He's missing his legs, and just, you know, the list went on. And like, I always self-reflect, even to myself. I'm like, you know, how does a parent react to that situation, right? Like, I'm not a parent, but how would a parent react? You could become the victim or the victor of that situation. And so my parents were like, looked at each other and said, hey, like, can't change it, right? Like, you know, how Elrod always talks about, like, you can't change it. They were just like, we need to go with the flow here. And so basically they classified me with Hanhart syndrome. And what Hanhart syndrome is a super rare genetic disorder that either leaves the babies with undeveloped limbs or undeveloped organs. And so actually at the time of my birth in 1996, I was the 12th baby in medical history that they've ever seen this happen to. And out of the 12, me being the 12, 8 of them have passed away due to undeveloped organs. And so they gave me about a 30% chance to live. And my parents looked at each other and said, hey, we're going to focus on that 30% rather than the 70%, because I always tell people focusing on the negative, like, I don't care what it is, you know, in any situation in life, focusing on that negative aspect will just always sink you, right? It doesn't empower you. And we'll get into like how disempowering humans are as creatures. Like, we're very disempowering people, things, right? But so basically they classified me with that, and they gave me a 30% chance to live. And then, you know, a couple of months later, my mom went into labor with me. She had a C-section, and they brought me out. They did tests on my organs, and my organs came back 100% healthy. And so, like, there was this wild event, and, you know, like, the only thing that was affected were my limbs. And so for those of you watching, I'm born with no legs. That's why I made the joke that I was 6'5". And so I was born with no legs, one arm with one finger, and then this little arm, this guy. And so, I mean, that was the start of the life, right?
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, you know, I'm a parent, right? And so I can't imagine what your parents go through. And I listened to your book prior. And if you're listening right now, at the end of this, we're going to give away Nick's book because it's a freaking really good. I mean, it's just really good. It like slaps you in the face and like, okay, I need more gratitude in my world. But because you gave your parents a lot of props because they handled it right.
Yeah. I always say my parents are the superheroes. I'm just the offspring. And the importance of parenting is like, and it's funny because I'm not a parent, and I'm trying to prepare myself to be a parent, and you never can prepare yourself to be a parent. So, like, you know, you just always learn as you go, right? But I'm saying, as you guys as parents, you're cultivating your kids' mindsets through your actions, through your words, the way you react, your emotions. I mean, if you don't think your kids are listening, I bet you they're watching. They're always watching. And so the way my parents raised me, like, I have to give it up to them, because in those early ages, it was either make it or break it. It was either make it or break it for me, I believe. And so the way my parents raised me, which was so unique, and my biggest advantage was they sat me down at an early age and were like, Nick, you got no legs and one arm, and like things are going to be hard, but like this is how it is. Like this is how life is. Nothing's going to change. Yeah. You're going to have to adapt to the world. You know, the world doesn't change. And so they would put my clothes in front of me in the most polite way and say, all right, Nick, like tinker with it, you know, figure it out. You know, we'll be here. We'll support you. And, you know, I'd get pissed off and I'd be like, you know, why can't you just help me? And they would say, Nick, you got to go through the motions. You know, you got to go through the motions now. Things are going to be hard now, but later it'll be easy. And so I always kind of talk about things as muscles, like the mind's a muscle, like, and there's so many muscles that we need to, you know, exercise and condition. And the biggest muscle my parents helped me exercise was falling on my face and getting back up, like knowing things were going to be hard. So at an early age, like I always tell people everything I did, I failed at. Like I've always failed at everything, like getting on a chair, feeding myself, you know, putting my clothes on. I failed at everything. And so my biggest advantage was my parents didn't coddle me, and they basically helped me exercise the muscle of getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. And I think we can all agree that like even nowadays with kids or even adults, like when things get hard, people throw the towel in. And the reason why they do is because they aren't exercising the muscle of doing hard things and falling on their face enough.
Yeah. Why do you think I mean, are your siblings, were they raised with the same mindset? Like, are they all out there like, or was it different for you?
So it's funny, my mom talks about, she's like, Nick, you were the last kid, so we knew the most. Like, you know, like, and at that time, like, kind of like you're not as strict, right, with the last kid, because like you've been through it all, you know. I mean, I don't know, but that's how my parents described it. But even when they brought me home from, you know, after my mom, you know, went into labor with me, when they brought me home and they presented me to my siblings, they didn't even talk about the limbs. They would just say, here's your baby brother. Here's your baby brother. And my siblings reacted of just like, oh, this is my baby brother. Like they had no idea. And that's the thing with kids. Like if you don't make things different, like they just think it's normal. You know, it's like when a baby falls down, like there's two ways you can react. You can be like, oh my God, are you okay? And the baby freaks out even more. Or you're just like, you're okay. You know, like you get up, you know, like you just brush it off. And so my parents just nonchalantly like introduced this unicorn to the family. And it's just like, that was their baby brother, you know, they were just excited to have another baby brother. And so, you know, I got beat up with the siblings. Like they put me in the mix, and that was my biggest advantage was my parents just treated me normal. Right. And then, you know, I got thrown into the mix, and they beat me up, and my brother was a wrestler and my sister was a gymnast. So my sister was a gymnast. She would teach me how to do a handstand to get on a chair. Like, it was just like, this is my baby brother, and like this is it. Like we don't know any different, you know? Right.
What and for everybody listening, I know that some of the lessons that you've learned growing up are what makes you a public speaker now and able to speak on this with such authority. What happened? Like what was your teenage years like? What was it like to be that kid at school? And like it's a curiosity for me, you know?
Yeah. For sure. So growing up, I've realized this a couple years ago because I was looking back at baby pictures. And so I didn't realize I was different. You know, I didn't realize all the things I had going on at a way early age. But I self-reflected and I looked at a picture. I was in kindergarten or preschool, and it was a you know, a school, like a class picture. And we all had Santa hats on. And so it was during Christmas, we all had Santa hats on. And then here was Nick, and I took the picture like this. I had my hand stuck up in my hat because I guess I didn't like the way my hand looked. And so that was like my first sense of insecurities, that I don't even remember that, right? I don't remember that as a kid, but looking back, I'm like, damn, like I must have struggled with like not liking the way my hand looked. And then, and I realized as I carried on, I didn't, now I'm good. Like I love myself, like I could care less, you know, but just like conditioning, right? But going into elementary school, like I said, I didn't realize I was different, but there were certain occasions that people let me know as different. And so, for example, I was in 3rd or 4th grade, and we were out playing. We were doing recess, and we were playing kickball. And you're like, Nick, you know, how do you play kickball? Well, I can run around the bases, and so I'd have someone kick for me, and I'd run. And so someone kicked the ball for me, and I was running, and I got first, I got second, I got third, and I slid into home right before they got me out. And I still remember this kid's name, so that's how much it affected me.
Yeah.
And you know, right, I'm in between, like I'm already safe, like it's already done. I'm in between the pitcher and the catcher. And the catcher goes, "How are you gonna let a cripple score on you?"
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm in 3rd or 4th grade, dude. I don't even know like what that word meant probably, but I knew that it was negative, right? And so
Yeah.
this was my first taste of the like getting into that victim mentality of like, well, I beat you fair and square. And like, why me? You know, like, why are these kids calling me these names? You know, like, why do you have to bring that? Like, why? You know, and everyone gets into the victim mentality at least once in our life. We can self-reflect on a time where we're like, why me? Right? Everyone. And for those of you listening and watching, I want you to take a sense of comfort in that everyone goes through it. Don't think you're just some random case that like, wow, I'm a weirdo and I'm a victim. Like everyone goes through it.
Yeah.
And so there was a case like that. And then I was probably in 6th or 7th grade, and I had to take the short bus because of my wheelchair with the wheelchair ramp. And so I was sitting in the bus, and this girl was just going around the whole bus making fun of people. And I still remember her name, so you know how much it affected me. And, you know, I'm sweating. I'm like, oh man, she's going to have a field day with me. And she gets up to me and she goes, "I don't even have to start with you. You're already too messed up anyway." And I'm like, I don't even, like, why? Like, why? Why are you saying this to me? I didn't do anything to you. And not only was it the words that came out of her mouth, but it was the fact that she was a female. And so in high school and middle school, females are a big deal for dudes. And whichever way you go, I don't care, whichever way you go, you're craving that opposite energy, right? And so now I'm starting to stack. You know, we talk about stacking, positive stacking or negative stacking. And what I mean by that is, you notice when you start your day off on the wrong foot, so to say, right? Or you roll out of the bed and one negative thing happens right off the rip, you tend to start just thinking about all the negative things that are going on. You tend to start nitpicking ourselves. We're very disempowering creatures. And so if you don't dig yourself out of that hole, you're gonna dig yourself deep.
Okay, so hold on. How do you said it, you opened the door. So negative stacking, positive stacking, how do you dig yourself out? And nobody would know more than you in that scenario, that story you just shared.
Yeah, yeah. I'll let you know how. And I didn't know how to get out of that time. I want to let people know that clear. I was still struggling. I've only learned how to get out of these negative holes a couple years ago. So I don't want people to think that I was this guru back in the day, right? But the thing is, the number one key is self-awareness. And so what I mean by that is even now, like you ever have a time where like I used to go through school and like just be in this pissed off mood, and I wouldn't realize that my eyebrows were crouched down. And so I'd just be like, you know, like resting like bitch face, so to say. I don't know if we're allowed to curse on here, but like, you know? Yeah. And people are like, dude, what's wrong? And you don't even realize that you're in this state, you know, because you're just going through the motions. And so the biggest thing is self-awareness, right? Realizing your physiology, you know, are you slumped over? Like, how is your physiology? Like, are your shoulders rolled back? Like, how are you talking? What are the thoughts that are going through your head? And then the second step, you got to sit in the guck. You got to sit in the mud for a little bit. You got to sit in that state and realize, I don't like the thoughts that are going through my head. I don't like the way I'm feeling. Okay, now it's time to dig myself out of the hole. But like, you got to sit in the guck for a little bit to know that you don't want to be in that state anymore, right?
Right.
And so then you got to, the way you reverse stack is now you got to start thinking about all the things you're grateful for. Like, you got to start self-reflecting. And what I've realized is the people that have a hard time self-reflecting on moments they're proud of and moments they're grateful for, it just means you don't do it enough. And that's okay. You're already a step ahead realizing that you don't reflect enough. So what I'm saying is you need to start stacking all the positive things. Like, man, I woke up today. I have a heart. You know, I was given this heart. I have a family, or I have food in my refrigerator. I have a bed. I mean, this stuff is going to dig you out because perspective and gratitude will always ground you and bring you back to that thing. And like, like, this isn't just like mindset mumbo jumbo. The emotion of gratitude, emotionally, like scientifically, it is emotionally impossible for you to feel grateful and sad or grateful and angry at the same time. So like, if you're in these negative feelings or negative emotions, go back to gratitude. Go back to what you're grateful for. Go back to that perspective. It will always bring you back to where you need to be.
You know what slapped me in the face? I'm listening to your book, and one of the things that you said is be grateful for hot water. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Hot water? Like, how do you be grateful for hot water?
Because there are people in Africa that don't have anything.
And it's
They're like,
that simple.
oh my God, like you go outside, you see a dude sleeping on a bench. Like, what do we have to complain about? Like, oh my, like it fires me up because, and I used to be an ungrateful kid too. Like, I don't want to like get the, a wrong like perception of me. I used to be an ungrateful kid too. Like, we all go through this ungrateful stuff, but like, even I know, a man with no legs and one arm, that there are millions of people in the world that would switch places with me in an instant because they just don't have it like I do.
They don't have food.
That's more than enough for me, brother. That is way more than enough for me, you know?
Yeah. So as you mentioned it earlier, so I'm going to ask, relationship with women, like how has that affected you in an early age and now as an adult? Like, talk to me about that. I'm more than curious, Great.
So piggybacking off of that girl story. So girls were my biggest suicide trigger. Girls were my biggest suicide trigger. The girls were the biggest thing that made me dig myself into the darkest hole, because I told you we tend to stack on these thoughts, right? So after that girl said that to me, the thoughts that go through my head continuously as a middle school and high school is, okay, Nick, girls think you're disgusting. Girls think you're different. Nick, how are you going to walk a girl to your locker? You can't. Even if you got to the locker, how are you going to open a locker for her? How are you going to hold her books? Is she going to want to hold your finger? That's disgusting. Like, these are the thoughts that go through my head. Wow. Because like that one girl put that thought in my head that like, dude, you're messed up. You're disgusting. And I'm just like, oh my God, you're right. Like, this is how girls portray me. And I didn't. So those would, like, girls would drive me into my biggest suicidal triggers, because like, that was a big deal, right? I see my friends getting loved on, you see it all over, and I crave that. I crave that feminine energy, and I never got it the way I wanted to. And so the power of reframing things changed my life. And so what I mean by that is everything's the meaning you attach behind things. And so I didn't have this breakthrough until a couple of years ago. Like, I was struggling with this until a couple of years ago. One of my friends helped me realize this, but I realized that, Nick, if a girl doesn't want to further a relationship with you, if a girl doesn't want to dive deeper and connect with you on whatever level it may be because of your physical differences, well, then this physical differences is an authentic filter, and it's filtering out the girls that you don't want in your life anyway. Boom. How empowering is that? That's a big changed my life, because I realized, and like when I when I share that on stage, girls like, oh my, like, it's so hot. Like, it's so amazing. Like, it's so attractive. Like, I realized, like, not only being authentic, but sharing what you struggled with and sharing what you currently struggle with is just like, people relate, man. And people just connect with you. And I've realized, like, for all of you guys and girls out there, I've realized looks are there. Like, looks are like kind of important, but I promise you, it's the way you connect with people. It's energy. Like, it's all energy. And so that is probably the biggest, like, reframe that changed my life, was like realizing, like, dude, like, if that girl says something to you, kick rocks. Like, you're not even on my frequency. Like, you're not even on my level anyway. Like, this disability is doing me a favor. It's so empowering. And so when I reframe my life like that, like, now it's amazing. And I meet amazing women that are, driven, goal-oriented, like, all on my frequency, and everything's about frequency. And those girls that are going to deny you for those physical differences, they're on like a way low wavelength. Like, they're not going anywhere.
They're not going anywhere, and you wouldn't want them anyways.
Yeah, right. But how empowering is that? You see, like, in a snap of a finger, you take a situation that you were the victim and you spin it. You put an empowering meaning behind it, and you're the victor now.
So how do I, if I've got something I'm challenged with, how do I have that reframe? Like, what are the steps to cause that reframe? And then how do you practice that so that you're freaking amazing at it?
Yeah. So ask yourself, like this is literally an exercise that everyone can implement immediately right now. And so I always quote Nelson Mandela, and Nelson Mandela said, I don't lose in life. I don't lose. I only win or learn. And so when you frame your life as winning or learning, so basically right now, you can take an event in your life in the past that you thought was a loss, right? That you thought was negative. Yep. And you ask yourself, what else could this mean? What was one, because I promise you, there is always one good piece of information that you can pull out of every event. I don't care how negative you think it is, there's always one good thing that you can pull out of it. Whether it was a different perspective, whether it was a different piece of knowledge, whether it's a different, like, there's always something that comes out of it. And so you take an L and you extract the good and you turn it into a W. And so, like, when something bad happens to you, or like, if I could quote unquote, something bad, like when you think something in the future, guys, like when something you think's negative, ask yourself, well, what else can this mean? Or what did I learn from it? Because I promise you, you can learn something from every event. And when you learn from something, you win. You win. That way, you never lose. And so you need it to be at an anchor, like, what else can this mean? And that also goes back to the mind frame of the world is happening for you and not to you. The majority of the people think the world's happening to them and they're the victim and all this stuff is so bad, and the world's happening for you. You just need to realize it, and you need to pull that stuff out of it.
Now you're mixing wisdom. So I gotta slow you down. Okay. So if I need a reframe or I feel like I have a loss, the question is, what did I learn, or
what else can this mean?
What else can this mean? Okay.
What else can this mean in a positive? What's positive that comes out of it?
Okay. That's good. That's good advice. Okay. And now you switch to a whole nother thing. Let's talk through that perspective. Like, break that down. Like, the world is happening for me versus, to me.
The majority of the world, they just think the world's happening to them and they're not in control and all this stuff. But when you reframe, like when you start living life and you're like, everything's happening for me. Like I said, whether it's you got punched in the face or whether you got in a car accident, somehow, some way, this happened for you. There was a benefit. Something came out of it. Maybe it woke you up. Like, I don't know what it is in their life, but there's always some way that you can be like, man, this happened for me. This was good. Like,
how did you learn this lesson? Like, personally, in your struggle as you went through life?
Yeah, my whole life I was like, why am I born with no legs and one arm? My whole life, like, this is the stupidest stuff. Why? Like, I was suicidal. I didn't want to look into a mirror. I didn't want to go into public. I hated myself. I wanted to take my life. And then I realized, like, oh my God, this no legs and one arm thing is my biggest superpower. It's my biggest influence. This is what helps me break down people's barriers and help me get them to open up and make that breakthrough. It's my biggest superpower. That's why I'm able to speak, like, because I've realized that, man, there's so much to talk about, but like when people realize our problems become gifts, once we learn from them, your life will change. Like, the things that you think are so negative about yourselves, I promise you, those are your biggest advantages. Those are your biggest things that set you apart in business. Like one of my mentors and my good friend, Andy Frisella. I don't know if you know Andy Frisella, MF CEO Project. He's the CEO of First Form, but I have a scar on my face too, but he has a scar on his face. And at first, like, this is the worst thing in the world. Like, this is so so bad, right? And then he started networking and doing business, and they were like, oh, you know that guy with the scar on his face, Andy? And that's how they were like, people would remember Andy. That's an advantage. You know, and so it's just like that. I wanted to give an example of someone else's life rather than mine, right? And so it's just like, focus on like your advantages, like your strengths, right? And like how you are so unique, like the things that you're probably hating on yourself, how can you switch those and start using them to the best of your ability? Because life all deals us a deck of cards, and you may think your deck is great, you may think your deck of cards is mediocre, you may think it's terrible, but it's our duty to play that hand to the best of our ability.
So you've taken this to a whole nother level, because your biggest challenge growing up has become your biggest strength, that whole victim to victor, right? I mean, that's 100%. How did you realize that was your life's calling? Like, how did you go through that process of like, holy crap, I'm called to help empower other people? Like, what was the event that changed your life?
Yeah, so there was one event, but I'm still learning. I'm still learning that it is. Every day, like when, people come up to me and, even when I started speaking, like right in the beginning of my career, I'd come off and I'd ask my business partners, like, how was that? Was it good? Like, I don't think my story's cool. Like, I didn't think it was cool. But then and I want to let everyone know real quick, like, we all have a story, and I don't want anyone to compare stories and think, well, that story's better and mine's less important. I promise you, when you open up about the things you're currently struggling with, and you open up and you tell your story of the things you struggle with, there are always people that are going to connect and relate with you. Like, and I don't want anyone to think that my story is cooler than theirs. Like, everyone's story is badass. Everyone's story is like unique to them. Yep. There was a moment I was wrestling, and I came off the mat.
You were wrestling.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot we can even go into that because I amputated 5 inches of this arm off to wrestle. Like, there's so much we can cover.
Hey, I'm a wrestling coach, so I'm
Oh,
all
wow.
about it. Yeah, I'm all about it. Like the mental toughness that's required for that sport is insane.
Yeah. Well, wrestling. So my older brother was a wrestler, so I always looked up to him. And
Yeah.
about wrestling is the coolest thing. They are the coolest thing. And
Yeah.
so when I got into high school, I'm in this low point, right? And I'm trying to figure out how to get out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And so all my best friends were wrestlers. I bowled my first year. My one buddy got me to bowl, and I was like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
And so all my best friends went back to wrestling. They were stud wrestlers. I'm from New Jersey, so wrestling's like a big deal.
Yeah.
And talking about humans being disempowering, the majority of us start with can't always. Like, oh, we can't do this because this, and this. Well,
Right.
How empowering is that? And so I always view my life of how. Because how will stimulate solutions. It's not mindset mumbo jumbo. It will stimulate solutions when you say, how am I going to do this? How am I going to break through this goal? Whatever it may be. And so I was marinating on the thought. I was like, man, how can I become a wrestler? And so I came home one day and I said, Mom and Dad, I want to be a wrestler. And my parents supported me in everything and anything, but this was a little bit different. My mom was like, oh no, Nick, God forbid, wrestling's the most physical sport. You hit your arm. Because for those of you listening, this arm was 5 inches longer than it is now. And my bone was growing faster than my skin. And so my bone couldn't keep up. And so if the bottom line is, if I would have hit my arm hard enough, my bone would have came through my skin. Ooh. So I came home. I said, Mom and Dad, I want to be a wrestler. Nick, what about your arm? And I said, can we cut it off? And they said, what? I'm a 16-year-old kid. They said, what? And I said, yeah, can we cut it off? And they said, first off, the right word is amputate. You're so aggressive with your words. Let's use the right word. I'm like, all right, let's amputate my arm. And so they were like, Nick, is this something that you really want to do? And I said, yeah. And, my sophomore year, we scheduled the amputation. They did a skin graft. So they lasered 5 inches of my bone off. They pulled extra skin from up here by my shoulder, pulled it over so I could beat people up with it. And so my junior year, I was a JV wrestler, but I went into the room real quick, just to touch on this. I went into the room and I told all my buddies, I said, beat me up, guys. Like, do not hold back on me. Like, slam me, do whatever you need to do. Because if you hold back on me, I'm not going to become the best wrestler I could possibly be. And that was the same approach my parents took. And so my senior year, I was 2-17. I got 2 more real wins than I got the previous year, and that's called winning progression. Yeah. And so I came off the mat after getting my butt kicked as usual, and I was trying to catch my breath, and this lady came up to me crying, and I'm like, oh man, what did I do wrong? And she said, Nick, I want to thank you. And I said, for what? And she said, well, my daughter's over there in the bleachers, and she never wanted to do a sport. She never wanted to do an extracurricular activity, but she saw you out there. You not only motivated it and inspired her, but you shifted her perspective. She's asking me to try all these sports. I want to thank you. And I was like, boom, light bulb went off in my head because I was on the mat for myself. I was on the mat trying to I wasn't trying to inspire anyone. Nick wasn't trying to be motivational inspiring, but I was changing lives. And I was like, holy cow. Like, imagine if I focused my energy on helping people, like, what could I do? But like how you said, it wasn't just one event. Like, I'm still learning that this is my calling because like, we all have our days. Like I have days, man, where I wake up and I'm like, dude, you're not doing enough. Like, you suck. Like, we all have these days, right? Like you could be the most successful person, but you have a day where you wake up like, dude, you're a bum, right? Like, this is how we operate. Sure. And it takes like an intro on a podcast for me to be like, oh my God, I did do all these things. Or it takes someone coming up to me after my seminar crying and saying, you saved my life. Like, I'm still learning, brother. And that's what I want everyone to realize is like each and every day we're learning what our calling is. It may be one specific event, but each and every day we're conditioning and just, realizing what our calling is.
I love what you said. Progression is winning because I'm a hard charging entrepreneur. Our audience, the folks that work here at MyOutDesk, we have over 1,200 virtual assistants. We help businesses scale.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, I'm effing crazy. I'm always
we are crazy.
I want to win, man. And I push myself, I push my team, I push our people. But that definition that you have, progress is winning. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, man, progress is winning. And I came up with that when I realized that my lowest and darkest days are the days where I'm the most stagnant. I don't have much going on. So say I'm coming off of a speaking tour, and I come home and I have like a week home to chill, right? Like, I'll chill for a couple of days and recharge. And then I'm like, dude, like, all right, let's get back. Like you get the jitters, right? Like you need to get back to doing something. And the reason is humans love the feeling of progress. I mean, ask anyone, right? Everyone loves moving the needle forward, whether it's personally or professionally, right? And so it's funny. I came off the one, it's a good thing I have one finger. I always say it's the one,
the one thing.
The one thing. And that's what I'm telling people. If you find yourself in a slump, if you find yourself in a rut and you're like, man, I don't know how to get out of it, do that one thing today that you know is going to evolve you into a better human being. And that could be a big thing or a small thing. That could be reading a book. That could be riding your bike. That could be doing meditation. That could be texting your parents, I love you. Anything. But do one thing today that you know is going to evolve you into a better human being. And that'll start the snowball effect, because we love progression. And I want people to self-reflect on that. Like, we're hustlers, right? We're grinders. And it's a blessing and a curse, because you always want more and there's never enough. Right. But it's super important to self-reflect and realize that, like, man, I really did go from A to D or A to J. Like, you got to self-reflect on the journey. And because we're so hard on ourselves, right? We're so hard on ourselves as entrepreneurs, and you know, whatever we're doing, we want the best. But it's so important to self-reflect on our wins. And that's something that I haven't done enough. And it's something I've realized speaking all over is people aren't exercising the muscle of self-reflection enough.
It's interesting. I love Zig Ziglar. He's like the old school guy.
The OG.
He's the OG. And he said, if you can't take a large step, take the biggest step you can right now. And I think that advice is just phenomenal.
That was fire. Hold on. I need to, someone type that in for me.
Type that in.
I love that.
And Ziegler is like one of those guys, you know, so I think that kind of works well. What's interesting? One thing that's amazing about you, we were in Breckenridge snowboarding, and you have no legs, one arm, one finger. How the hell do you do all these amazing adventures? I've seen you on balloons. I've seen you climbing mountains, snowboarding, and I've only known you 6 months. So like, first of all, how do you do all these things, and what's it like to set these goals that are just kind of outrageous for the average person, really?
Yeah, I'm going to make it very simple. And that's the fact of, I'm going to try everything. I'm going to try absolutely everything. And I'm going to live my life with more remember whens than less what ifs. And so what I mean by that is just like climbing a mountain. My team, we flew out to Arizona. They said, let's go on a hike. They didn't say it was a mountain. They said, let's go on a hike. They pulled up and they're like, hey, you're climbing this mountain. And by the way, we're going to film a mindset program while you do it. And I'm like, okay. And this also comes into the importance of like support groups and accountability groups. Like when we were climbing, it was a 3-mile mountain. It took me 4.5 hours to get to the top. And I made my team carry me down. I'm like, I'm not climbing down. I climbed up. You guys carry me.
Yeah.
But the environment, there was not one piece of energy of doubt.
Everybody knew you were going to do it.
No one ever said, Nick, you're tired. Nick, you need to stop. No, here, Nick, here's your water. We're almost there, Nick. You're 50% of the way, Nick. It wasn't, oh, you need, it wasn't any of that coddling. And that's the importance of accountability groups, is like people that love on you, but push you when you know you need to be pushed. Mm-hmm. And so that's also important. But with all these things, like I said, man, I'm going to try everything. And I'd much rather fail and fall on my face and pursue something that I'm passionate about than sit on the sideline and think, man, I wonder if I could do that.
Well, you know what's interesting? Something that has struck me about you is consistently you are stretching yourself. And that's not normal. It's not normal. And I think even our audience, like, how do you push yourself to be extraordinary? Like, how do you get out of that kind of mindset that the average person is and then go do epic stuff? Like snowboarding, for instance, like that. I mean, I get why you want to try everything. You probably are like me. I'm an entrepreneur. I like a lot of variety in my world, right? But there is something unique about what you're up to. And I think the audience could take it away and learn something from that.
Yeah. So the biggest, David Osborne, you know David Osborne, right?
Yeah.
So one of the biggest wealth traps is the know-it-all syndrome. And so our biggest skill, even as a company, like it's one of our like core values, is being a student of the game. And being a student of the game requires you to drop your ego and realize that you only know what you know, and that you can learn you can pull away any super powerful nugget from a janitor to the CEO, like anyone. But like people's ego gets in the way of that. And so for me, I'm always just looking for a way to grow. Like you said, stretch myself, but that's me just trying to be a student and just like trying to learn things. And so yeah. I think that people's egos get in the way and they're like, oh, I can't learn from that. I already know too much about that. Or, like I want to learn more about snowboarding and I want to learn if I can do it. And I want to put myself out there. And if I fall, I fall. And if I suck at it, I suck at it. Like, but at least I tried. And like inside of you, knowing that you gave it your all and tried, you feel so great. And like people, like, yeah, well, I mean, what are your thoughts? Like, I always just want to push myself because I know that I always have to grow. And I also, like, everyone can, I view myself as a lantern. I'm a lantern, and everyone can use this analogy. I don't care. I use my light. I look at my life as a lantern. And what I mean by that is I'm trying to be the light for people that are going through the darkness. I'm trying to give as much love, as much contribution, as much value. But if I'm not doing things that recharge that lantern, I can only give so much of myself. I'll burn out. And so, I do things that like make me kind of scared, like snowboarding and swimming with sharks. I'm not saying go swim with sharks, guys, but I'm saying like I do things that make me excited. And, like the one thought, man, I'm all over, but the one thought that fascinates me and scares me at the same time, and I think about it every single day, is you're going to die. Yeah. You're going to die. Yep. You can die tomorrow. Last night, I was laying on the couch and I was like, I can close my eyes and I don't know if I'm going to wake up today. I don't know. But like, while I'm here on the earth, I'm going to try everything and I'm going to do my best to the ability to become the best version of myself. The best version of myself. I mean, Ed Milet, one of my great friends and great mentors, he has a great analogy and he says, when you die and I don't care whatever your religion is, don't push religion, but when you die and you meet your maker, whatever your maker is, it could be a potato, it could be a girl, I don't care what it is, but when you meet your maker and he brings up the version of you that you could have been, you don't want that to happen. You want to be identical twins with that person. You want to be like, hey man, well done. You grew into the person that I know you could have been. You are me. I am you. You don't want to be in your deathbed thinking, man, I wish I would have swam with sharks, or I wish I would have went in a hot air balloon. I wish I would have tried that business. You don't want to be that guy or girl. You don't want to be that person. And so that's the thought that always goes through my head, that I don't want to have any regrets. And the way that I don't have any regrets is I just try things. I don't care if I suck at it. I don't care if I fail. I'm going to try it.
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting is, so our audience, we literally emailed 500,000 people because your message is so powerful. And, to be honest, mindset and like pushing through barriers and what you're about, it's not super sexy because it requires self-discipline, hard work. And, to all those people that saw the invite but didn't come, like, what would you tell them? Like, what is it that entrepreneurs, leaders about your story that they need to hear, that if they did, it would shift their whole world?
Well, first, it was just what we touched on, right? If you saw the invitation and you said, "Oh, mindset, I'm already a mindset master," that's your ego. Yep. They're already in the wealth trap. Right. You're already thinking that you can't learn from a 22-year-old, or you can't learn from a man with no legs and one arm. You're already losing. And so like, not in a bad way, but like, that's already the ego. And so boom, that'll be a shift in their perspective, realizing like, man, maybe I should be more open to being a student more. Right. And so, I mean, I think that hits it right on the nail, right? It's just like ego, man. Ego is a killer.
It's a killer.
It's a killer. Yeah. And so and that's another muscle, exercising the muscle of dropping your ego, because it's tough, especially as alpha males, for the guys out there, and the alpha females, like the people that are just leaders and stuff. Like, it takes a lot to sit back and be like, shit, I didn't know that, or that's a good idea, and to admit it, Right. But like, man, my whole thing is like, show up genuine, show up authentic, show up transparent, show up what you're struggling with, show up what you need help with, ask people for help, ask questions. People want to help, right. And in a time nowadays, like, there are less genuine, authentic people than, there are more fake people than there are genuine, authentic people. And so when you show up in your business, when you show up in your family, and you're authentic and you're transparent, that's an advantage in itself, because people know when you drop the dollar sign above your clients' heads and you look at them and you say, what can I do for you? How can I help you? How can I serve you? People just want to get treated like people, and people just want to know you care. Right.
It's nuts. What are some of the things that you're going to be doing this year and next year? I think we're wrapping up. We've got about 15 minutes left, but what's in your world, Nick? Where are you going to be doing? What are you going to be tackling in the next, 6 months to a year?
Yeah, I got a lot of exciting new things, new things to stretch me, right? And so right now I'm getting ready for my second China tour. And so May 15th through June 5th, I'll be touring all over China speaking. And
Nice.
I plan on, so I speak things into existence too, right? And so I'm going to take over the Asia speaking market. I already have it. Like, give me a couple years, I'm going to be the biggest thing over in Asia, because they're not exposed to people like me, because they're put out on the street, they're institutionalized, all these things, right? So I'm just blowing minds over there. And so I'm just super grateful for that opportunity. Also, Nick's biggest dream, like my biggest childhood dream, was to be a performer, was to be a singer and a rapper. I can sing. People don't know it. I played the full set of drums when I was younger, an electric drum set. People didn't know that. There's a lot of things that people don't know. And so I'm getting back into, like, this past year, my soul has been craving me to just create music. And the one thing that I've reflected on in the past is, like, Nick, okay, you didn't become a famous singer and a rapper in the 6 months that you tried when you were 17. Like, who are you to quit, right? And so I'm writing an album right now, and I'm writing an album. It's like singing hip hop, but it's meaningful substance, like personal development, but in rap, like hot songs. And not only do I love music, and music moves worlds, right? But I can only touch so many people through personal development stages. But I can touch masses. I can touch, millions through music, because music makes you feel some type of way. And if I could plant the right seeds in the music, then I'm subconscious, like I'm planting the right seeds. They don't even know it. And so I have a line in my song is, life is a wave and I'm staring at a tidal. I'm just trying to be the light for the kids that are suicidal. That was me. Come and step into my shoes. I'll crack the no legs joke first, so technically you lose. Like, just showing people how, like, you spin things, and how your mind's a garden, and like, and that's how you connect with people. That's how you build, like, a cult-like fan base, not only in business, but in music, is like, you let people know what you're going through. And your fan base, your audience, is going to be a bunch of kids that are going through some shit. It's going to be a bunch of adults that are going through the same thing you're going through, and they relate to your music. And so I'm working on my album right now. And I want to tour. I want to tour on my album. I want to sing all over. So I want to take over, the entertainment and music and stuff. I want to become a DJ. Like, why not? My whole thing is like, why not? And so, dude, everything. I want to do everything.
I love it. What are some things that, as an entrepreneur, we should learn from you? Like, the one or two things, like, as an entrepreneur, what's the one or two things that you just kind of, when you see it walking around, you're like, oh, that guy needs this message really bad. What are the one or two things that you bring to people?
The one thing I've realized is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And so what I mean by that is, whatever industry you're in, whether it's real estate, I don't care what industry, right? Find out who's crushing it and study them. Find out what they're doing right and do more of those things. Find out what they're doing wrong and don't do those things. But, like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you can make it smoother.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, like, when I start, like, guys, like, bodybuilding, didn't know anything about bodybuilding when I started. Modeling, had no idea. Speaking, no idea how to build a speaking company. But like I said, student of the game, like, we got as close as we could to the mentors. And if you can't get to your mentors personally, read their books, watch their YouTube videos. But, like, there was so much information. And that was, like, a big thing for me. It was like, Nick, you don't got to reinvent the wheel. Like, there are successful speaking companies out there. There are successful people modeling, like bodybuilding, like, just, like, you don't have to, like, that was a big shock for me. Is just like, oh my God, like, the plans are already out there. Just do it your way, and just, like, do the right things.
Put the Nick spin on it, but do it.
Yeah. And then also networking, like, relationships, being able to, like, one of our core values in our company is longevity. I'm not here for quick fixes. I'm here for longevity relationships. And so always providing win-win situations. So say you want to learn from a mentor, like, go buy him coffee or go do something nice for him. Like, just shock them. It pattern interrupts, right? Like, and never want to take just, and also, like, after all these calls and after every interaction, just at the end, tell people, do not hesitate to reach out to me. If there's anything I could do, if there's anything my team can do for you, please don't hesitate. Just reach out to me. And that goes back to treating people like people and letting people know you care. Because like the secret sauce, I said it on my story the other night. I'm like, you guys want to know the secret sauce? Be authentic. Like actually care about people. Like, holy cow. Like actually care about people.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. Like the way I incorporated caring about people and showing people I care is like with speaking. Like I don't show up and I collect a check and leave. I make sure that I'm the ending and I do the meet and greet. I sign 400 books with my chin right in front of people to show them that I care. Like, what are you doing to set yourself apart? What are you doing to let people know that you care more than the rest of the industry?
Right. Selfishly, I have, this is my last question. You mentioned energy, and as an entrepreneur, as a leader, the vibrations that you put out there, the energy that you have, it's contagious. If you want good things, positive energy, how do you manage your daily energy to have a positive impact on so many people and also keep your mind right? In the entrepreneur game, we suffer setbacks. I was on a call earlier with a friend and I was like, man, if you want to really blow this up, you got to choose it because it's freaking hard. It's hard to win. It's hard to build a team. It's hard to be where we're at.
It's sexy.
Yeah, it's not sexy. It's hard. It's hard work. It takes a long time. It's a lot of discipline. And you can make a lot of money if you just want to be your own guy. But if you decide you want to lead people and build something that lasts, you know, you have to choose it. And sometimes you suffer defeats. And how do you, I want to end with this one question because I think it's such an important question for entrepreneurs. How do you do it?
So to start off, I still struggle, right? I still struggle with it. I just want to put it out there. I'm still a 22-year-old kid and I still play Xbox. And, you know, sometimes I shouldn't be playing Xbox and I should be creating content. But like, I struggle. Like we all struggle, right?
Yeah.
So you got to be very choosy and very, very choosy and very wise of where you put your energy and who you're giving your energy to.
Yep.
And so like, you need to be very clear on the people, the right people that need to be in your circle that you give your time to, because like we're always getting pulled in all these different directions, right? And there's only one of us, right? And there's only so much energy we can give. So I'm very choosy of and wise of who I give my energy to. And for some of you, I mean, one of the hardest things probably in entrepreneurship, but in life is like sometimes it's our closest family and friends that we like are holding us back.
Right.
And so the one thing, and I struggle with that. And so the one thing I've realized is that you don't need to drop these people out of your life, but you need to love them from afar. You need to love them from afar and realize that it's not being selfish. It's being selfless, right? Like you're focusing on yourself, but just loving people from afar, like the people that I don't want to give you all my energy. Like I need to put my energy elsewhere. Just love them from afar and don't feel bad about it, because that was one of my biggest struggles when my life changed very quickly. Like I went from, you know, a kid in high school, then I was a famous prankster. I had 1 million followers on Vine. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on. And then, you know, that stopped and then I became a bodybuilder. And then now like my friends back home, you know, they see me touring all around the world. And at first it was tough, right? It was, you know, it was just tough to move away from them. It was tough to not talk to them as much and put my energy elsewhere. And maybe I'm not talking to my parents as much, which sucks. But like for the people that you care about, this is the one thing that I need to do, that I'm going to take my own advice, right? But the people that you care about and that you want to love from afar, but keep in contact, you got to schedule the time for them. Because if you don't schedule time, like a 5-minute FaceTime call, if you don't schedule it, it's not going to happen. And I don't talk to my parents as much as I should. I'm going to put that out there. I don't talk to my parents as much as I should. I don't talk to my siblings as much as I should. And so that's the thing, is just scheduling things. If you don't schedule things, they're not going to get done. And
Yep.
So just being very, very wisely of, you know, wise of where you're putting your energy. And I wanted to give the example of like, there's days where I play Xbox where I shouldn't be playing Xbox. And it's just like, sometimes it's a recharge. Sometimes it's like, all right, Nick, like you played enough. Like you need to, but like, I want to let people know I struggle with the same stuff that they're struggling with, you know?
Yeah. It's just, that's being human, right?
Yeah.
All right, Nick, you're amazing, man. Thank you. If you're listening, in the show notes, we're going to kind of put a link. MyOutDesk, Nick is giving away his audiobook. It's a really nice I think it's about 2 hours worth of listening, and you can speed it up. So I did it in like 45 minutes.
Perfect.
Yeah. And so it's a phenomenal book. It's Victim to Victor. And it walks through Nick's full life story and some of his strategies. Nick, this has been awesome. As I expected, you freaking rock this thing. Thanks for joining us today.
You got it, brother. Grateful for the opportunity. I appreciate everyone listening. And like I said, guys, do that one thing today, is going to evolve you into a better human being.
Love it. Thanks, everyone.
Boom.